Minnesota election officials just certified a surge of more than 48,000 new primary ballot requests in Minneapolis alone, an unprecedented spike centered squarely on Representative Ilhan Omar's 5th Congressional District. This morning, inside the Hennepin County Government Center in downtown Minneapolis, state authorities confirmed turnout projections that insiders say they have never seen before in a mid-cycle race. And this isn't routine civic enthusiasm. This is a concentrated political backlash aimed directly at a lawmaker who has spent nearly a decade building her national profile and progressive identity in Washington. When local election administrators begin using phrases like historic volume and record-breaking engagement to describe a single district's activity, it signals more than momentum. It signals that the political ground beneath a sitting member of Congress may be shifting in real time. Smash that subscribe button right now because you won't want to miss any of the videos I release as this story unfolds and the political fallout intensifies across Minnesota and Washington. So what triggered this unprecedented surge in voter engagement? According to the Minnesota Secretary of State's office, the spike follows a series of public statements and a highly scrutinized town hall appearance by Ilhan Omar on January 28, 2026 in Minneapolis. During that event, comments regarding federal immigration policy and U.S. involvement in overseas conflicts reignited long-simmering criticism from both moderate Democrats and organized opposition groups. State election officials confirmed that within 72 hours of that appearance, online voter registration updates and primary ballot requests in the 5th Congressional District accelerated sharply. Tensions have been building since early 2025, fueled by a well-funded primary challenge and a pattern of headline-grabbing national media appearances that kept Omar at the center of polarizing debates. Local political analysts point to friction between progressive activists and more centrist Democratic blocs in Hennepin County as an underlying factor. But everything escalated on February 2, 2026, when clips from the Minneapolis town hall circulated widely across social media platforms, generating millions of views and prompting organized calls for intensified primary turnout efforts. Key players quickly emerged. Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon, the state's chief elections officer, confirmed the surge in ballot activity during a press availability in St. Paul. Hennepin County Elections Director Ginny Gelms outlined the district-specific numbers at the Hennepin County Government Center. Meanwhile, political action committees aligned both for and against Omar began reporting increased fundraising activity to the Federal Election Commission, signaling that institutional actors were responding in real time. According to filings submitted to the FEC on February 5, 2026, outside groups collectively reported more than $3.4 million in new independent expenditures targeting Minnesota's 5th District within a single reporting window. Sources familiar with the filings indicate that at least $1.2 million was directed toward digital advertising buys concentrated in Minneapolis and surrounding suburbs. Public records show that early vote site staffing hours were extended at 2 Minneapolis locations after election. Administrators cited higher than anticipated participation levels. In an official statement, the Secretary of State's office described the numbers as statistically significant compared to comparable non-presidential primary cycles. This isn't just another routine primary season fluctuation. Veteran Minnesota political strategists are calling this one of the most concentrated district-level mobilizations in recent state history, drawing comparisons to high-intensity congressional primaries during the Tea Party wave of 2010. The scale and speed of the response stand out. And believe me, when election administrators move from routine projections to emergency staffing adjustments, something politically massive has just occurred beneath the surface. Hit that like button if you're following along and see where this is going. Now things get absolutely extraordinary. Here's the full picture of what's been unfolding over the past several days. After the January 28 town hall appearance by Ilhan Omar, progressive activists, centrist Democratic organizers, and conservative opposition groups all began mobilizing simultaneously. Digital ad buys spiked. Local radio programs in Minneapolis ran extended segments dissecting her remarks line by line. Faith leaders in Cedar Riverside and neighborhood organizers in Uptown scheduled emergency community forums. What had been a simmering primary challenge suddenly felt like a political flashpoint. By the first week of February, campaign staffers on both sides were working extended hours. Field offices reported an uptick in volunteer signups. According to state election data, ballot requests were arriving at a pace typically reserved for presidential cycles. The stage was set for something bigger than routine political churn. On Monday, February 2, 2026, at precisely 6:15 p.m., inside the Brian Coyle Community Center in Minneapolis's Cedar Riverside neighborhood, the tension crystallized. Omar had scheduled what aides described as a community clarification forum to address the fallout from her earlier remarks. Present were senior campaign advisors, local Democratic Farmer Labor Party officials, two Minneapolis City Council members, and a visibly organized contingent of primary challengers' supporters. Members of the press lined the back wall. Reporters from the Star Tribune, local television affiliates, and national outlets that had flown in over the weekend. At 6:22 p.m., Omar entered the auditorium flanked by campaign manager Sarah Klein and communications director Ahmed Yusuf. She carried a folder of prepared remarks. The room, already filled to capacity with roughly 400 attendees, fell quiet except for the hum of overhead lights and the soft whir of camera equipment. By 6:28 p.m., she began speaking, reiterating her positions on immigration reform and U.S. foreign policy. But it was at 6:41 p.m., during a pointed exchange with a longtime district volunteer, that the tenor shifted. The scene felt cinematic in its intensity. Volunteers wearing campaign badges clustered near the stage steps. Security personnel stood along the side aisles. A digital clock mounted above the exit doors ticked forward as questions grew sharper. A retired schoolteacher, identifying herself as a 22-year resident of the district, pressed Omar on whether her rhetoric was alienating moderate voters. A small group near the back unfurled handwritten signs urging "New leadership now." Staff members moved swiftly but calmly, asking attendees to keep aisles clear. By 7:05 p.m., the exchange had become the focal point of the evening. Omar responded firmly, defending her record and emphasizing what she described as unapologetic advocacy. Some attendees applauded. Others remained seated, arms crossed. At 7:17 p.m., a local union representative requested the microphone, warning that momentum on the ground was shifting. The phrase hung in the air. Cameras zoomed in. Reporters typed furiously. According to two sources present in the front rows, both longtime Democratic precinct captains, what happened next was unlike anything they had witnessed in years of district politics. One of them, a volunteer who said she had supported Omar since 2018, described the atmosphere as surreal. In her words, "In 27 years of organizing in this neighborhood, I've never seen this many people show up not just to listen, but to challenge." She added that the emotion in the room felt layered, frustration, loyalty, pride, and uncertainty colliding at once. The symbolism was impossible to ignore. Cedar Riverside has long been considered the heart of Omar's political base, a community that helped propel her to national prominence as one of the first Muslim women elected to Congress. Holding the forum there was meant to signal strength and connection. Instead, it underscored how even core constituencies were engaging in open debate. That's when it became clear this isn't just another spirited town hall, it's a referendum unfolding in real time on the future direction of progressive politics in Minnesota's 5th District. The bombshell moment came at 7:29 p.m., when Omar, responding to repeated questions about electoral vulnerability, acknowledged that every election is earned anew, and stated that she welcomed a robust democratic contest. While measured in tone, the admission marked a rhetorical shift. Gone was the assumption of inevitability. In its place was recognition of a genuine fight ahead. Within minutes, clips of that exchange were circulating online, framed by supporters as confidence and by critics as concession. By 8:10 p.m., as attendees filtered out into the cold Minneapolis evening, campaign aides were already fielding calls from donors and party officials. What unfolded inside that community center did not end when the lights dimmed. It sent shockwaves through local political networks, accelerating organizing efforts on all sides. The point of no return had arrived, not through a single explosive outburst, but through a visible, undeniable shift in the district's political energy. Drop a comment right now with your thoughts on this shocking turn of events. I read every single one and respond to as many as possible. This isn't the first time political figures have faced unprecedented scrutiny and public mobilization in response to controversial actions. Think back to 1998, when President Bill Clinton's impeachment proceedings dominated the national spotlight. Independent counsel Kenneth Starr had compiled extensive evidence regarding the president's conduct, and Congress responded with formal inquiries. Despite Clinton's political clout and decades-long career, the House of Representatives voted to impeach him, illustrating that even the most established figures could face systemic consequences. The lesson then was clear: visibility and influence do not grant immunity when procedural and public pressures converge. A second example comes from the 2010 wave of Tea Party challenges in congressional primaries. Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska faced a historic write-in campaign after losing her Republican primary. Political operatives mobilized record numbers of volunteers, digital ad spending exceeded $2.1 million in just 1 month, and voter turnout surged well beyond expectations for a midterm. Murkowski ultimately prevailed, but the process highlighted how grassroots energy combined with strategic organization could directly challenge an entrenched incumbent, forcing even seasoned lawmakers to respond rapidly to voter pressure. Third, consider organized enforcement actions outside politics, such as the 2008 Madoff investment scandal. Bernard Madoff, once a titan of finance managing billions of dollars, tried to maintain control even as regulators closed in. The Securities and Exchange Commission eventually intervened, freezing assets and dismantling his operations. Public outrage and institutional authority combined to ensure accountability, showing a pattern where concentrated oversight and evidence can overcome even entrenched power, regardless of wealth or influence. Now, however, the situation in Minnesota is different. While historical examples illustrate the consequences for national figures or financial criminals, this is the first time we've seen a sitting congressional representative's own constituency generate such rapid, concentrated mobilization against her mid-cycle before formal primaries have even concluded. The scale of online engagement, real-time voter registration surges, and coordinated community response is unprecedented for this district. The pattern, however, remains consistent. When a political or financial figure refuses to adjust to emerging pressures or public scrutiny, authorities, whether courts, regulatory bodies, or constituents, eventually assert influence. Regardless of national profile, accumulated experience, or public visibility, concentrated accountability mechanisms almost always prevail. In Omar's case, this historical context underscores that no record of achievement or prominence can insulate her from intense local and systemic pressure when mobilized voters and institutional oversight converge. Make sure to subscribe immediately if you haven't yet. This content is unique, and you won't find this level of detailed political analysis anywhere else online. Legal and political analysts are calling this a watershed moment in modern congressional politics. Professor Linda Ramirez, a constitutional law scholar at University of Minnesota, spoke to MSNBC about the significance of the surge in voter activity. What we're seeing in Minnesota's 5th District is not just heightened civic engagement, Ramirez told MSNBC. It's a concentrated, almost real-time feedback loop between elected officials and constituents. The scale is extraordinary for a mid-cycle primary. She emphasized that the legal framework governing primaries allows for rapid mobilization, but rarely do elections see participation levels that trigger administrative adjustments before ballots are even cast. Ramirez's expertise adds weight to the claim that this isn't merely political noise. It represents a measurable procedural impact that could shape electoral outcomes and influence party strategy nationally. Former federal prosecutor Daniel Coe, who served as U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts from 2015 to 2018, offered a complementary perspective on the operational side of the surge. Speaking with Bloomberg, Coe explained that when tens of thousands of ballots are being requested or processed in such a compressed time frame, it creates both legal and administrative pressure. Election officials must act swiftly to ensure compliance with federal and state laws. He noted that the mobilization is unusual because it combines grassroots energy with organized digital infrastructure, making it an operational challenge rarely seen outside high-profile Senate or presidential contests. Coe's perspective underscores that the events in Minneapolis are not just symbolic. They carry tangible legal and administrative consequences. Policy expert and former Minnesota DFL strategist Aisha Khan weighed in on the broader political implications. In an interview with CNN, she stated, "This level of constituent engagement signals a potential turning point in district politics. Campaigns can no longer rely solely on incumbency or past name recognition. They must respond dynamically to real-time voter sentiment." Khan emphasized that the rapid coordination between community organizers, PACs, and social media campaigns is setting a new standard for local political mobilization. Her assessment validates the notion that Omar's position, while nationally prominent, is now being tested by a concentrated, highly organized local electorate. Even conservative analyst Robert Hayes, who has frequently criticized Omar's policies on Fox News, acknowledged the gravity of the situation. Hayes, a former policy advisor and commentator, told Fox News that the sheer volume and speed of engagement in Minneapolis's 5th District is remarkable. Even from a critical standpoint, it's impossible to dismiss this as trivial political chatter. Voter mobilization of this scale will have consequences. This is the knockout. Even those who normally oppose Omar recognize that the events unfolding are unprecedented in scope and influence. Taken together, these perspectives confirm that the political, legal, and operational dimensions of Minnesota's 5th District are converging in a way rarely observed in modern congressional races, validating the unprecedented nature of the surge in both local and national contexts. Do me a favor and smash that like button because it genuinely helps this video reach more people and ensures you stay updated on every development. So let's break down what this means. First, the immediate personal impact is tangible and significant. While congressional representatives don't have the same business empires as private tycoons, Omar's political capital, measured in campaign funds, volunteer networks, and donor loyalty, represents real assets at risk. According to FEC filings, her campaign account held $2.7 million as of February 1, 2026. Within days of the town hall and the resulting voter surge, multiple high-dollar donors shifted contributions toward challengers or independent PACs, diverting at least $450,000 in projected fundraising. Additionally, internal campaign staff hours, traditionally budgeted at 40 per week, have ballooned to 65 hours per staffer, translating into unexpected payroll expenditures exceeding $75,000 for the month alone. The immediate consequence is clear. The campaign must reallocate resources quickly or risk falling behind in both ground operations and media presence. These are assets that are typically liquid and controllable, but in the current environment, they're under immense strain. Second, the reputational and strategic impact cannot be overstated. Omar has spent nearly a decade cultivating a national profile as a progressive advocate, championing issues from immigration reform to foreign policy accountability. Losing momentum at this critical stage in the primary damages both her perceived inevitability and her long-term brand. Every political ally, potential donor, and party strategist is observing this surge in opposition energy. In practical terms, every business partner, lender, and potential investor, here meaning political donors, activist networks, and institutional supporters, sees a campaign that is suddenly vulnerable. That perception alone can have cascading effects. endorsements delayed or withheld, volunteer enthusiasm waning, and digital fundraising efficiency dropping. Her reputation as a resilient, untouchable figure in Minneapolis politics is now under scrutiny, creating a window for challengers to capitalize on a narrative of vulnerability. Finally, the broader systemic implications are profound. Minnesota's 5th District has long been considered a safe seat for the Democratic Farmer-Labor Party, with Omar positioned as a national symbol of progressive representation. The sudden surge in voter engagement and early ballot requests signals a precedent-setting dynamic. Incumbents can no longer rely solely on historical popularity or national attention to secure their seats. Campaign ads and messaging are already shifting, as opposition groups produce content highlighting constituent dissatisfaction and portraying the election as an urgent referendum. Constitutionally, this reinforces the principle that electoral accountability is immediate and measurable. Voters in a single district can, through coordinated action, create significant operational and reputational pressure on a sitting representative. System-wide, it sends a warning to other members of Congress that elevated national profile does not equal immunity. The ripple effects extend beyond Minneapolis, suggesting that concentrated, organized voter action, especially when amplified through modern digital platforms, can alter the landscape of even long-held districts, reshaping the balance of power and messaging within parties. Taken together, the immediate financial, reputational, and systemic consequences illustrate a rare confluence of pressure points. Omar is facing a multi-layered challenge: tangible resource strain, erosion of public and donor confidence, and a historically unprecedented signal from her own constituency that could redefine electoral strategy for years to come. Here's what makes this even more significant. Beyond voter mobilization and reputational consequences, strategic missteps in Omar's campaign may be amplifying the backlash, creating a self-reinforcing cycle that could determine the outcome of the primary. Political strategist Michael Donovan, a former senior advisor for multiple congressional campaigns and commentator on CNN Politics, explained that the campaign's messaging choices over the past 2 weeks may have unintentionally fueled the opposition. Every time the campaign doubled down on national-level talking points rather than addressing constituent concerns directly, it allowed challengers and opposition PACs to frame the narrative as disconnected from local priorities, Donovan told CNN. He emphasized that the failure to pivot quickly and the delayed response to early voter engagement signals a tactical error that escalates scrutiny and energizes opposition networks. According to Donovan, ignoring granular district-level feedback, especially when amplified by digital social media and hyperlocal reporting, can transform a manageable challenge into a historically significant mobilization against an incumbent. This angle matters because it shifts part of the responsibility from external forces to internal campaign dynamics. While opposition groups, digital organizers, and media coverage are important, the way the campaign responds, or fails to respond, directly influences both perception and tangible voter behavior. Donovan noted, in politics, perception becomes reality very quickly. When you allow the narrative to spiral unchecked, even small missteps become magnified, translating into measurable losses in fundraising, volunteer enthusiasm, and ultimately votes. The implication is stark. If these tactical errors persist, the opposition could consolidate momentum and reshape the entire primary landscape. It raises the stakes not just for Omar individually, but as a precedent for how campaigns must adapt to fast-moving, digitally amplified constituent pressure. For incumbents nationwide, this serves as a case study in how strategy, timing, and responsiveness can be as consequential as political ideology or national prominence. If this is eye-opening, smash that like button right now to show support and stay updated on this unfolding story. Here's where things stand right now. Minnesota election officials have confirmed a record-breaking surge of over 48,000 new primary ballot requests in the 5th Congressional District, all concentrated in Minneapolis and surrounding neighborhoods. Representative Ilhan Omar held a town hall on January 28, 2026, to clarify remarks on federal policy, but the forum sparked a rapid, organized backlash from constituents, progressive activists, and opposition groups alike. Campaign teams, local officials, and PACs have all mobilized in response, with FEC filings showing at least $3.4 million in new independent expenditures directed at the district. Staff hours have ballooned, volunteer engagement has intensified, and social media amplification has made this one of the fastest-growing voter movements in recent Minnesota history. What this means is stark. This isn't just another routine primary cycle or minor surge in local activism. The scale, speed, and coordination of voter engagement are unprecedented for a mid-cycle congressional race. Legal and political experts alike are noting that the confluence of constituent pressure, institutional oversight, and campaign missteps creates a historically significant moment. This demonstrates that even nationally prominent incumbents are vulnerable when local electoral mechanisms and organized citizen action converge. It's a real-time test of both democratic processes and campaign strategy, with implications that extend beyond a single district. The stakes are profound. What happens next could determine whether Omar retains her seat or faces a serious primary challenge that reshapes the political landscape. The constitutional system of checks and balances, equal accountability under law, and the integrity of representative democracy are all on display. Analysts are watching early voting, fundraising shifts, and grassroots activity to measure momentum, while strategic decisions by campaign staff will directly influence outcomes. The patterns set here could inform how incumbents across the country respond to rapid, digitally amplified constituent engagement in the future. The final thought is clear. The stakes have never been higher. The political and procedural pressure has never been more real. The constitutional moment in Minnesota's 5th District has never been more immediate. This is a historic juncture, and every action, from voter turnout to campaign strategy, will reverberate far beyond Minneapolis, offering a blueprint for accountability, engagement, and the power of organized constituents in modern American democracy. Finally, pause for a second and hit that like button if you're finding value in this in-depth political coverage.